To call our board meeting for April 20th to order. If you'll join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I'd like to thank you all for attending this evening. I am about to pull something down on my computer here. There we go. Our first order of business after the flag salute will be the approval of the agenda. So I'm open for a motion on that. Well, I understand our superintendent has an amendment.
Prior to that, two things. I would like to recognize that Megan Jackson is absent because she is at a golf tournament. And Dinah did expect to be here. I just spoke to her a couple days ago, so perhaps she's just running late, and we'll get her here in a few moments. Also, I want to notify you that there is a couple of details that we need to look into with respect to agenda item 5. So we are not ready to take action on that item at this time. We have had a lot of really helpful input from community members and coaches and on design, which has meant that we are, there she is, we are in a place where we are awaiting a final design for us to look at as a board. So we will pull that item 5 from the agenda. We may, for expediency, need to have a special session to consider design and whether or not we want to go forward when the engineers and architects complete that for us. But I will, during my report tonight, share where we are so far. I will share results of our survey and some numbers that I think will be helpful for our board and our communities to see, that might answer some questions that I saw that people had by looking over the survey. So we will have information tonight, but we will not take action.
Will that information occur during the superintendent's report?
During the superintendent's report.
So then I will move that we approve the agenda minus item 5 and plus an addendum to the superintendent's report.
Okay. Well, we don't have to have seconds here. Got Mason Transit has seconds. Okay. Any further discussion of the change in the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we have public comments on the agenda items, and I have, you can have these either now or at the end of our meeting. Or when the item is being discussed. So I've got Herb and Ryan Pruitt. I saw Herb.
Yeah.
Right in front.
He didn't circle either one.
He didn't say he wanted to speak.
Oh, okay.
He's signing in because he's...
Well, we're just so glad to have this little bit of recognition for you this evening. And that's Herb Gerhardt, and he's right there in the front. So, Ryan?
No, I'm good.
Okay. It says, reading is such an important skill. I
wasn't
think,
gonna bring it up.
yeah, it's really an important skill, and we might consider a course in speed reading or, literacy for those that were assumed to have it. So, okay, are there some board member comments? Well, let's start over here with...
Okay, I went to the Washington Washington Association of School Administrators event that honors contributing citizens from each school district. And we had 2 from our school district, Pam White and Mateo
Santiago,
who were very deserving, and it was really, it was a very rewarding evening. I really enjoyed the fact that we had those 2 people there with us to recognize, and pretty special.
Well, I've had a really busy month. It's been crazy. I've been all over today even. I've been hearing a lot of great things about the sign that we have out in front of Feller talking about their early childhood education, and I'm really excited about it. I had kind of an interesting experience yesterday. I don't speak Spanish. My other daughters went to a bilingual school when they were little, and they learned Spanish, which was great. They're really fluent in it. But I had William with me, and he was in the grocery cart, and this lady came through, and she was speaking Spanish, and he repeated verbatim what she said. I couldn't do it. And I'm like, well, I guess we're going to start learning Spanish now. And it's just really exciting that we're kind of doing that in the district where we're working with the early childhood education, and then, you know, being able to kind of see that at home, how that's going to really impact our district, and I'm very excited about it.
I have to think of what I've been doing. Art
Okay.
just-
Not a whole lot to report other than last night and a couple other nights before that, I attended, and Laura gets credit for this too, the North Mason Scholarship Foundation meeting in which they were trying to determine who they're going to give scholarships out to for the graduating seniors this year. There's 37 students that are going to get scholarships from the North Mason Scholarship Foundation, and that's real exciting. And also earlier, I had gone to the chair of the Kiwanis Scholarship Committee, and we determined scholarships for students for that organization as well. Scholarships is something that's very dear to my heart. I've been part of the Scholarship Foundation since matter of fact, I'm the only one that was there when we started it now that's left, the hangover. But also at Kiwanis, I've been doing their scholarships for 25, 30 years, I'm not sure, since the 80s in any case. And it's always very fun to be able to give money away to kids who want it and need it. In any case, that's the main thing I've been doing this week on school and kid issues.
Well, I was very pleased. Laura was there, and as so was Dana earlier this week, to participate in the Project Citizen. That is the right one, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Project Citizen presentation at Hawkins Middle School. And in this, the Project Citizen is about giving people's education for civic life. And the students are invited to come up with a policy. So, what needs changing? It's your world. And the policy had to do with a change in the marijuana law and concerning the kind of safe storage of same. And how many kids did we have there?
There were about 30.
Yeah, there were 30 kids, and they had the presentation divided into 4 parts: the problem, and you know, why that particular approach, the problem, their approach, the pros and cons of the approach, the feasibility of it, etc. So the kids stand up and present, and all, you know, groups of 5, groups of 4, things like that. No notes. I mean, they could have had notes, but they didn't have notes. And the presentations just got better as they went along. And they also are asked questions by the judges afterwards, and I was very pleased to see the ready way in which these kids were able to ask questions. And since that activity has been related to my former profession, I try to offer a little sharp edge so that they will be prepared for their future. And I said, well, isn't the problem with this law that da 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 da? And this one girl just came right back at me and says, we didn't say that. I was just so pleased, you know, that she was that sharp, and Dana had just blown my cover by introducing me as the prof. You know, great. Just the credibility I need. And she went right after him. Didn't bother her a bit. That's the kind of education for civic life that I would like to see more of in our kids. And I was just very pleased with that. The other brief thing I'll mention, and I can't remember the details, this past Monday, the governor signed a new public records bill, it's now the law, that makes some changes in the previous one. And I will leave, you can look at the details in the various papers. The Olympian had a particularly good story. The picture was of the staff and the city council of Lacey taking pictures of every picture that the city of Lacey had from its beginning. And the story made the point that that kind of unfocused request, in which you could ask for everything, from the agency from year one, will now be outside the law. When you make a request, you need to in some way focus it, and there can be some discussion back and forth. And also there's now a charge for electronic copies. There's more to it than that, but some of my colleagues in WASDA, the Washington State Association of School Directors, have been working and lobbying on that. I testified on it a couple of times, and I was pleased that we got some movement in that direction. So that's my report.
Leanna?
Deanna, goodness sakes.
I'm actually okay. I don't need to talk much. I was actually supposed to show up on Monday and didn't even call anybody and sat down on my couch, and I've been so busy with a public forum and all these other things that I've been doing. I fell asleep on my couch, and when I woke up it was 8 o'clock, and my husband didn't even didn't say anything, but obviously he knew I needed the rest. So when I woke up, I knew it was too late, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm hoping it was good. So, but I think Ray Mao was invited to go, and he didn't get to go, but he said he would have wished he would have been able to come.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah.
All right. Well, in ASB, we have been working on prom. It has been all things prom. We had our prom assembly today, and I didn't get to attend. I planned it, but I didn't get to attend because I'm also managing the baseball team, so I have to tend to them. And prom is next weekend, so that's just what we've been doing.
All right.
Yep.
Busy.
I believe you've been going to school in the meantime.
Oh, I have been
Yes.
learning lots. Don't you worry.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that report. Very encouraging. Okay, let's see here. We are, am I right that we're on item 3?
No, 2, consent agenda.
Consent agenda. I thought we did that. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. We're now at the consent agenda. Is there anyone on the board that would like to have an item pulled for, discussion?
You should start with a motion.
And would anyone like to make a motion to that effect?
Okay, I move that we approve the consent agenda, but I would also like to hear about the club that they're requesting to establish, the Relay for Life.
Okay.
Oh, that's great. We have a special person here who
We
can
do.
address some of those things. So,
So
when you're ready.
So-
now is when you ask for the discussion and ask for, people want to take, people.
Oh,
wanna-
yeah, we ought to, okay.
This is that
We have
time.
to vote for that?
Nope.
Okay.
First, you want to get, just reminding, you want to allow the board members a chance to, is there something they're interested in? This is when the discussion, this
Yeah,
is when we do
right.
have lots of discussion.
Yeah.
So, and you want to have that, what she brought up is exactly what we're
Okay.
going to do before voting.
All right, anything else? Okay, no further discussion? We need.
You need to have the discussion that she brought up.
Yeah, okay, well, let's discuss.
I'd like to invite Spencer Pruitt
Sorry, John.
No,
to
that's
the
all right.
podium to let us know what this is all about. The next president of the United States, everybody.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Well, maybe in a few
In a
years.
few years.
Yeah,
First, I want to thank Ms. Rosenbach for helping us a lot with getting this all going and helping us get Relay
Well,
in
thank
schools.
you.
Relay would like to start a Relay club in the high school this year and hopefully in other schools in the future, but the high school this year and see how it goes. The goals for the club would be to increase awareness among students and faculty about cancer and to raise money that will go towards cancer research and providing services for people fighting cancer. Through donations, the American Cancer Society provides free testing for breast cancer, transportation for patients undergoing treatment, lodging if needed for treatment, 24-hour round-the-clock support, wigs for patients who have lost their hair, and a variety of other services, all meant to help patients fighting cancer. This club would provide an opportunity for students to fight back against cancer. The club would help spread awareness about cancer, plan events for Relay for Life, advertise Relay, and organize a team for the annual Relay for Life event. Club members would be educated about cancer, and the club could possibly serve as a support group for students that are dealing with cancer. The club would also possibly attend the American Cancer Society Day at the Capitol to advocate for cancer to elected officials. Committee members from Relay would come to the meetings to assist, plus we would have access to researchers, doctors, and cancer program specialists at the state level. The club would have a board, just like Builders Club, who would be elected by other club members. The board would run the meetings. So it'd be kind of student-led.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
Would
you,
you have a
Steph.
budget? Excuse me. Do you plan to have a budget?
So, I don't exactly know how it works, but our plan was to, any expenses we had, we were going to use from our fundraising money. And at the end of the year, write a check to Relay to send it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
While he's standing there, I'd like to point out that Spencer has taken a very prominent role in ensuring that we have a Relay for Life in North Mason every year. He is, if not the leader, a leader on the committee to get this done. He's got some great ideas. He met with the administrators today about ways to get all of our schools more involved, and I just think we should recognize his leadership in that area.
All right.
That's really,
Well, I just want to give you my thumbs up. I enjoy very much seeing a young person such as yourself taking an interest in, it has to be governance, because you're learning how to run an association on school, and you got a cause that involves learning, but you also have a focus that's, like I say, beyond the classroom into the larger world, addressing a significant problem that brings a lot of different agencies in our society together. So, thumbs up, Spencer.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
So assigned, if a kid or student, I should say, not really kids, young adults, whatever. If they don't have cancer themselves, but they're dealing with it at home, is that something that you guys will help them with as well?
Mhm. So we'd educate the club on cancer and how to deal with that stuff.
That's so cool.
And then we'd put out posters and advertise to the students that if there's any way they're dealing with cancer, have any questions, you can come to the group. And maybe once a month we'll have a designated meeting just for that, for students that need to discuss and answer questions like that.
What a way to reach out. That's really awesome.
And you are a freshman,
Yeah.
so
All
you'll
right.
have him for 3 more years. Be sure to write all this into your scholarship portfolio. It's
Oh,
good
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But a
Thanks,
comment
Spencer.
also, or comment, and you might know something about this part too. If you remember from Builders Club, because you were the secretary, and you created the Relay for Life for them, and that was middle school last year. But you know how the Kiwanis Club had a budget that was reported every week. I'm guessing, and this is where, if you know anything about the ASB at the high school,
So he's an ASB too.
okay, well then you'll find this out.
Man.
This new club could apply to the ASB for funding for your business stuff, to run your meetings, to perform certain things which would be different from the money that you raise for cancer fighting. And then, but raising the money for cancer fighting, when you say that, then that all has to go there. That can't be used for your club operations and stuff. And so just remember how that worked in Builders Club, and that's what you would have to do with this new club as well.
Okay.
Right.
That maybe helps answer what you were asking, I hope.
And you guys, so I'm ASB treasurer and secretary. So you guys have put in for it in the high school, and we've approved it. So high school has approved it. And do you remember what your budgeting was on there?
I talked to Ms. Burgraff about it, and
Uh-huh.
she told me to put, because it says, where do you want your budget? And she told me to put on there, all funds will be raised.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I
we-
think that's what I
I'm
remember
going to
too.
talk to Ms. Regstein and some other ASB students and kind of figure it out.
Because you can always put in for another thing. Yeah.
I had a comment. I noticed that on our schedule of upcoming articles, we don't have one for July. This would be really neat because they have it in June. If we could have a July article based on what they're doing,
Oh, that's a great
And
idea.
how it turned out.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
help promote them a little bit. And
Or I
awareness.
could write it in July mine is due for August, but I could include it in mine too, kind of like a startup for the school year.
Oh, that'd
Join
be
this
cool.
club. It's
sort of thing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
Free advertising.
Sounds like
Okay.
you're supported.
Spencer,
Nice job,
thank you very
bud.
much. Okay, now I trust, there any other comments on those items before we,
No, I call for the question.
okay? All in favor then of approving the consent agenda as modified? Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. That brings us then to our third element, board development and linkage, and superintendent update.
Okay. And of course, we start with a budget status report with Kathy Severs.
Good evening. I was hoping, I think everyone can probably hear me. I was hoping to bring you a nice big report with all kinds of legislative information, but I don't have one. So what I have is just our standard report, and I'll just go over that briefly, and then I'll give you a little update on what I and other business people believe might be happening with the budget, or with the legislature. So as you saw the report that was attached to the budget status and on the board agenda, we have our Marches, this is for the month of March. Our March revenues are a little bit lower than we budgeted, and our expenditures are a little bit higher. And again, that just kind of varies based on how the taxes come in. March is a tax month, so we are collecting taxes. Sometimes some people pay them early, some people pay them at the very last minute. So that'll always kind of fluctuate a little bit. But year-to-date, our expenditures are actually $90,000 more than our budget, and our revenues are about $305,000 higher than our budget. So we're doing well with that. And there's some graphs on the report that show if you like the visuals. As far as our fund balance goes, we do have a fund balance of about $2,104,000. It's kind of stayed pretty steady throughout all of the year. Again, we'll probably see that go up a little bit now. Well, this was March's. It'll be up a little bit in April, and then it'll start shrinking after that because there's no more taxes that come in, just the apportionment. And again, the apportionment, or the money that comes in from the state, comes in different percentages. So sometimes we get a little more, sometimes we get a little less. But we're doing very well. $2,104,000 compared to this time last year, we had $1.6 million. So we're doing quite well there, which we're doing on purpose. And capital projects, our fund balance is about $5 million. And as everybody knows, we did receive our $4 million of non-voted debt, so that's why that went up. Last month it was 1.6 million, now it's a little over 5 million. We still, with our capital projects, we still have some state match to collect for Hawkins Middle School and a little bit for the high school too. So we'll see some more revenue coming there, and then some more Greatview money as well. Our debt service fund, which is our fund that we use to pay for our bond, pay our bond back, we have about 1.5 million, which will stay steady. It'll just kind of get high, and then we'll make some payments, and that's again twice a year as well, and so it'll go down. ASB just pretty well stays about 300,000 every month. It goes up a little, down a little. Sometimes that depends upon if they're collecting a lot of money for dances and prom and things like that. And then our vehicle transportation fund is about 177,000, and that is what we use to buy the yellow school buses. As far as our enrollment goes, if you were able to look at our sheet, you will see that we're down about 25 kids this month compared to last month. And I think I've been saying this every time I come up here that there's no trends. It usually any kind of enrollment will tend to go up a little bit, and then it tapers off and just continues to just a little decline all the way through the end of the year.
Although we do have a trend in this month that we have kids who graduate early and to enter the military or to go on to school and those things, and that's where some of that drop that we have at this time of year comes from.
And that would be after the second trimester?
At the end of second trimester.
I always said that usually it starts kind of going down in February. Well, now we're in April, and it's just now starting to go down a little bit. So we've been doing quite well. We were way over budget to begin with, as far as our numbers go, but even with the decline of 25, we're still, we get paid on the annual average, so we're still about 30 FTE over our annual average, so we're doing quite well there too. And I was going to tell you a little bit about the legislature. I was hoping to have a little bit more information. We've been, all of us in cabinet and leadership have been working together trying to get some numbers and some staffing and some budget numbers, and the session will end next week, as everyone knows, next Monday, and we're pretty sure that that will then turn into a special session at some point. And the talk now is that there's a potential that there won't be any talking until the revenue forecasts in the middle of June come out. So it could be a long time before we really hear any legislative information or get the House and Senate and get together and actually vote on something. But that being said, we've just decided to just kind of move forward as we are pretty sure that we've projected and think things are going to go, and hope for the best and maybe have some contingency plans. So that's where we're at with that. Did you have any questions?
You mentioned earlier that we had far more revenue than we did expenses compared to the last year, if I got that right.
The fund balance?
Yeah. Any particular reason for that?
Well, I think that we've made a commitment to increase our fund balance, and I know, Mr. Campbell, you were actually with the auditor. We have the state auditors here now, and we had an entrance exam or a conference, and they did talk about that last year. What the state auditor prefers, that you would have a 30-day cushion for all your expenditures. So 30 days worth of expenditures just sitting in your fund balance. We don't have a huge fund balance comparatively to a lot of districts, and we don't have a lot of extra money coming in. We have a lot of grants, and we have just our apportionment and some donations, but some districts have, they have this levy authority money that comes in. They have really high numbers in their impact aid for military taxation purposes. And so they sometimes have a little bit more money that actually sits in their funds. And we were under, we kind of go on financial watch if we're under 20 days worth of expenditures, and we were about at 22. I haven't actually done the calculation, and I can certainly do that. To tell you how many days we have right now. Sure. I think last time I looked, we were about at 24, 25, and we could even be a little bit higher than that. So we just kind of made a commitment as a district to try to grow the fund balance a little bit, so we were actually more within the requirements. Maybe 25 would be great, which is kind of right in between. Don't really want to be on a watch, but I don't think we'll ever really get to 30 days because it's a little, I don't think many districts actually have the 30 days. But that's why we have a healthy fund balance. And of that fund balance that we have, you have to remember that about $1 million of it is designated as a reserve by the school board, so we don't spend that at all. So the other $1 million, I'd like to say it kind of sits there, but some of it isn't even really money. It's some assets and things. Yeah. And if for some reason we didn't get a payment, an apportionment payment, or some kind of grant payment or some large amount, we wouldn't be able to pay our payroll. So that's some of the reason that you keep the fund balance and keep a little cash flow.
Well, I've said before, I'm pleased with the as long as I've been here, that we've always had a balance that has served us well in difficult times, and I'm very pleased to see that that has continued under your supervision.
Which will end pretty soon, right?
It's
Really
on
sorry to see you
our-
leave. You have done a wonderful job for us at North Mason, so I'm glad that you were here for the time that you chose to be here, and I wish you luck in your new job and best wishes.
Although you don't get to leave for 2 more months, so don't get too excited.
We're not excited for you to leave, but we're happy for you. I'm happy for you.
And not only is she a good budget manager, but I can't think of a better partner to have on the lobbying front. This lady knows how to explain our schools to our legislators, and I was just very happy to see her do her stuff. Did us proud.
Thank you.
Definitely raised the bar.
Yes. Just to follow up with what Kathy said, I did give you all a copy of the notes from the entrance conference that we had yesterday. John attended on your behalf. This year's audit is focusing on a couple of areas, particularly, most notably, probably child nutrition, food service cluster. We expect to do very well there, and special education cluster, which actually they had planned to take a lot more time and had brought in one particular auditor just to do that, and he's almost done. So he will be doing the food service piece instead, which, although they haven't given us a report yet, would indicate to me that we did very well on this special education thing, because the longer they take, usually is not a good sign. So we're very excited. It is moving forward. As much as you can be excited about having an audit, but it is something we do every year, and our staff has worked very carefully to make sure that they are in compliance with all rules and regulations, and that we have all the right pieces in place to ensure that our funds are safe here in the district. So we expect to have a very good audit. Another thing I want to bring up in the teaching and learning update, I am going to just read to you a little bit from an email. You hopefully saw a press release that came out on Monday this week that North Mason School District has one of 2 schools in Mason County that received a Washington Achievement Award this year. In North Mason, it is Belfair Elementary School, who received a Washington Achievement Award for closing the achievement gap.
All right.
So we are very, very excited about that award, and the principal and I will attend the award ceremony in Auburn at Olympic Middle School on May 3rd and bring back that nice big banner to hang across the front of the
All
building.
right. Great.
So congratulations to Belfair Elementary School. Also, since we're talking about great things that community partners are doing, I do want you to note on your calendars, and I want to talk to ASB about it a little bit later. On June 1st, which is a Thursday morning, between 8:25 and 8:30, and exactly during that 5 minutes, because they have a very strict calendar clock that they have to follow, the law enforcement of Mason County will be participating for the first time in a number of years in the torch run for Special Olympics. And they will be on this campus for that 5 minutes, running past our buildings. And so if we can get students out to cheer the torch runners on and things, that would be really very exciting.
Awesome.
So we are participating in Special Olympics in that way in Mason County this year. And Sheriff Salisbury is very excited because every law enforcement group we have, from the sheriff's office to the folks who enforce Fish and Wildlife, are participating in the run. So we're really, really excited about that. June 1st at 8:25. And they will be running up here at 8:25.
All right.
So that means there won't be any law enforcement out on the roads?
Well, no, not
That's
all
scary.
of them are
Hedging your
running. And they might be a little tired by the time they get back out onto their part of the day.
I
So,
was curious that the law enforcement would be on the run.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
At this point, first I want to say thank you to Carolyn for being here. Denise actually has some much-deserved time off, and so Carolyn is back there helping us with running things this morning. Carolyn, can you pull up first the charts that are the summary charts of the survey for me, please? Yeah. I was trying to figure out which one of those went first, but the big complicated chart came as a result of the survey, so I think we'll start with this. So we did a survey. There were 5 questions. The 5th one was an open-ended question asking for comments. All except question 1 also had an opportunity for community members to comment. And you all have copies of all of those comments to read through. So, yes, people do think we need a stadium facility, new or updated. Go to the next one. In the second question, we gave them a couple of different ways to look at what we should do, building at the existing site using a combination of new and upgrades, build a new stadium in stages as dollars become available, and delay building until we raise additional funds were the choices that we presented. And you can see the results there. About just over 63% are in favor of building at the existing site as long as we can have all of the pieces that people expect to have and that we promised, and in a nice facility that is equal to, for the kind of facility it is, what we have done with our school buildings. I think that this question, I'm not as comfortable in the responses because we did write this question so that people could say yes to all of the boxes, but I'm not sure they understood that from some of the comments that were there. So what we were asking is what would need to happen at the stadium. And I think we're going to have to ask some more questions about that because although, yes, everybody agreed it needs to primarily support, or it needs to support practice and games for the high school, I think I expected to hear more of the same for the middle school and for community use and the others. So from a couple of the comments that were on there that people said, well, I wanted to be able to say all 3, I don't think we worded it well enough for people to understand that they could say yes to all 3. So that question didn't quite, I think, work the way we wanted it to do. And then we talked about what things that it should include. So obviously regulation size soccer and football fields, covered home seating, a little bit less interest in covered visitor seating there, as you can see in the middle.
Why?
The new locker rooms, new concessions, a little bit more than covered visitor seating, and press and coaches boxes on top of the roofs. So I think some good information. There was really great feedback in the comments, as you probably have noticed as you read through, and some criticisms, some really good suggestions. And since our last meeting, Mark Swafford has met with some community leaders from Pee Wees and soccer and put together a committee that will be involved in scheduling our fields and facilities moving forward so that we can ensure access for all the groups. So I think that is a really good start moving forward. One of the things that seemed to be a misconception, reading some of the comments, was people's understanding of the expenditures to date. And so that's why I put together this chart with a lot of help from our business office and from Eric. And I'm sorry that it's so the boxes are so little, but to try to get everything together so people could look at it on one page, there's just a lot of data. So Carolyn, if you can kind of slide to, looking at it, your left. No, the other way. Yeah, so we can just start with the place where there are the fewest boxes. So looking at that big screen on the left, we talked about the funding sources first. And Our bond was $49 million. That was a very deliberate choice on the part of the district. The district had run bonds in the past that were more than that to try to do really the same amount of work that we are trying to do with this bond and hadn't been successful. And through research had determined that that 50 million mark was kind of the magic point over which our community would not be able to support a bond. And so that was part of the decision-making process. So they were very deliberate and very careful in looking at how much do we hope we and think we can get out of $49 million, including the state match. We included the projected state match in those revenue sources, and that comes up to just over 16 million potentially, but it's very important to understand that you don't necessarily realize all of the state match dollars. You have to spend the right dollars on the right parts of a project to get that match back, and the state gets to decide if they think you did or not. So that is a projection, and it doesn't usually, as Kathy noted earlier, it doesn't always, at least, come in exactly that high. In addition, we have funds from Great View School District that are a very important part of our project as well. So the estimate from all sources, should we get all of the matching funds, and we already know we're not going to get some, would be $68,079,750. Project costs to date are $66,600 and $7,086, and there are still things coming in, obviously. So if you move toward the other side of the page, since my directions are off, whichever way, we've broken down by project, so you can really take a good look at that. So we started with things in the order that they were done, and the first thing that came out of the bond was putting a new roof on Belfair. And so the base contract for that was, we estimated it was going to be about $373,000, and that's about what it came in at. The base contract was $343,915, and then the sales tax was 7.9% for that $29,325 amount there. There were no change orders on the roof at Belfair. On the Belfair play shed, you can see that we expected to spend about $1.2 million. We actually came in a little bit under that. Our change orders totaled on that project 3.54%. I've asked for some input on what change orders should be. I've been told by our support on this project and by other superintendents that the industry standard is around 8%. Actually, when you're building a home and you're going to build a home with a loan, the bank asks you to have 20% for change orders. So the industry standard for schools being 8%, coming in at 3.54 on the Belfair Play Shed is a pretty good deal. The other thing to point out, there are sales tax on that project was 6.4%, and other expenses. Other expenses include a number of things, so let me talk just briefly about that. Those include design fees, construction management, permitting, special inspections, and some of the projects have a lot of special inspections, furniture that we have to purchase, equipment, owner-provided items, miscellaneous specialties, technology items, and other charges that come up in the process. So then you move down to the Sand Hill Play Shed, and you can see that that came in at, the base contract was $323,000. As we got into that, there were some other work that had to be done in preparing the ground for it, and some things that came up in that were unexpected. So the other costs there were a little bit higher. That came in total at $470,000. There weren't, however, change orders on it. The things that came up were things that we had to do as a result of inspections and things. So then North Mason High School. So, you know, And as we move through the project, some of the things change as well, because when we start at the beginning is when we were closest to when we were estimating what we were spending, and the longer we get, the bigger the change in the economy impacts what we're doing. So the base contract for the high school, there are several pieces, so it's a little bit confusing. But overall, we were expecting to spend about $38 million on the high school, and that's about where we came in. But we did it in some pieces, so that's why there's a base contract of just under $28 million. Change orders on the base contract to date have been 2.67%, so still very, very good. Then prior to getting work on the building itself, we separately bid out the digging work that had to happen, all the groundwork to Tenista. And so that Tenista part of the project was just over $500,000. There were change orders that came up there as we found out that as they were going to work, that there were, because of the age of our area up here, there were water pipes where there weren't supposed to be, and there weren't some where there were supposed to be. So as they were doing the groundwork, they ran into a few issues that had to be addressed. And so that had a higher change order on that groundwork process. That was at 13%, but overall, we're still coming in well under 8% on average for all projects. The turf field at the practice field came in at 2.42% in change orders, and at $803,000 for the base contract. We had to put a different trash compactor back there. That was a separate contract, so you will see that there. And the greenhouse also was a separate contract, and you'll see those dollars there. So altogether, the construction came in, and you can see here where the sales tax, this is something that I am advocating for with many other superintendents and with the legislature, and I think our legislators here, Dan and Drew, are going to help us with it next session. School districts really shouldn't be paying, in my opinion, sales tax on when we got our money from from taxes from our members to begin with, because you look at that on the high school, we paid $2.5 million in sales taxes. You start adding up those sales tax, and we'd have a lot of money left to do additional projects right now, and it's very, very unfortunate. So then you look at James Taylor, and here is the building. The building came in at 2.4, and we have a really wonderful building. This is one we didn't do as much, I believe, and I wasn't here, so I'm having to guess, but I believe we didn't know as much what we were going to do with that building when we were putting together the bond. So we lowballed the estimate of what that would cost, and that has been another impact on our overall project. But certainly we have come up with something that's excellent for kids. And even with that project and a lot of things that came up that needed to be adjusted during the process, we're at 5% on our change orders there. Right. Hawkins renovation, we're still kind of getting a few things finished. I'm really excited to report, the finishing all the parking up here and everything is part of the Hawkins project in the way that we build it out, and they will be paving by, I think it's May 8th, but it could be May 9th that they're paving, and then that whole project will be done, and it'll be really exciting. So if you look at that, the project is coming in at around $21 million. There are, again, $1.4 million in sales tax to date. That's money that we would love to have to use elsewhere, and 3.79% in change orders. The district office had 4% in change orders. It came in at $2.3 million, about what we expected. And the stadium so far, we have spent in design fees and other fees in preparation about $400 million. So you can see kind of all of that on that chart. We will keep this up to date, and it's available for anyone who wants to see it or have a copy. So anyway.
On the design charges for the stadium, you mean 400,000? You said 400 million.
Oh, did I say 400 million? Wow. It would be nice if we had that much money.
Nothing is too
Thank
much.
you.
You saved a ton of
400,000.
money.
So as we're going through this process, a couple of things have come out that I think are really good to help us as we move forward. If you can pull up the picture now. One of the things is, I'd like to take everybody out there and stand, but if you can just kind of use my words. If you go and stand on the edge of the sidewalk and look towards the new parking that's going in over here. If you kind of draw yourself a line, and it's probably off 10 feet or so one way or the other, okay, maybe 15, but falling along the edge of the parking lot, or of our sidewalk here, and going straight out into that parking lot, everything towards the high school will be parking. On the other side of that line is already planned another grass field. That'll be 80 feet by 250 feet, which is more than enough space to run end on end two U8 soccer fields, or maybe some little kid football games, or band practice, or all sorts of things. So some additional, or PE classes during the day. So additional field space that's outside of what we've already talked about.
On this level.
On this level,
Okay.
right there.
Okay.
So,
So that is in addition to the
In addition to
fields that will go down below.
exactly.
Okay.
So that is additional field space. It's 80 by 250 feet, and I looked up international regulations for soccer, particularly because they're usually wider than football. And I believe U8 fields are 20 to 25 yards wide and 40 yards long. I'd have to look it up. I have it on here. But certainly two would fit within that space. So, so I think that's really good to know as we're moving forward and thinking about where are we going to put all the things that we want people to do all of the time. I also want to note that in a meeting that Mark Swafford and Ray Mao had with some community members, and in conversations they've had with coaches, they've determined that we probably can look at retrofitting the new practice field with some lighting that would then make it more available for more times for more groups to use. So we're going to find out the cost on that at this point in time and add that into part of what we're talking about. This was current as of Monday, but Mark is continuing to get input from various coaches, both at the school and in the community, so it is a plan in flux. And not quite ready for you yet, but what you will see here is what the stadium could look like. I'm going to get up and use a pointer and everything, so what is different here, what is different here than what we talked about before is if you look, as I'm looking at it, on my right, where you see the kind of triangle shapes, that is kind of where the current softball field is. One of the conversations that coaches are engaging in with Mark right now is the idea of moving the softball field to Centrex and turning that into a big rectangular grass field for student and community use. And during track season, that would be where the throwing events take place, which is adjacent to the field, not throwing on the field, but that is more the industry standard at this point in time. And then the kind of the little triangle, dark triangle down there with that's within the fence would be the shot put pit. So that is kind of what we have right now with input from all of our coaches and from community members as well. So that's what I got. Any questions?
I have a comment. I'm just really happy that when we see things on Facebook sometimes where people are concerned or don't have the right information or don't like some things, that we're really responsive to them. And I love the fact that we did a survey to find out what the people think and what they want, and we're moving forward based on what they're telling us. I'm really happy that you're doing that.
Thank you. Well, we do try. Sometimes we miss the mark, but we do try.
So you're saying that the field events, the shot put and the javelin would occur, they would be where?
So right here would be like these long kind of broom-shaped triangles. That would be the javelin. And then to the right of that, the one that looks more like a searchlight,
Uh-huh.
that would be the discus. And the little triangle down closer to the field, that would be the shot pit.
Okay. Okay.
It's a lot safer.
It's much safer. Even though I have to say those new javelins are just not very dangerous at all compared to the old ones. And they don't go as far.
You get hit in the head with a discus for a shot, but it'll do some damage.
Yes, it will. So that's kind of where they are at this point in time.
So you did mention that the paving here is going to start May 8th or 9th?
May 8th or 9th. I want to say, I'm pretty sure Mark said the 9th, but the May 8th is the day that's in my head for other reasons, so
Do we have a sense of when it will be done?
it will be done that day.
All of it?
Yeah, and then they'll stripe it the next day, and
Okay.
it'll be all done by May 15th.
Okay, can we get the Belfair bypass or the Belfair people up here to learn?
Can we teach them how to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we might need to. Okay, so that's my report on capital projects.
All right, well, that's a lot. So we are at
Right there.
community linkage and message of the month. We have got, I don't know if there's, anything in particular because we're already informed about most of that through our various web connections. Anyone have a particular comment
I do.
on that? Yeah.
Right. We have the May 15th Senior Awards Night.
Yes.
And historically, I've gone to every one of them, and most often Laura Boat has also. I would sure encourage all the board members, and last year we all were there.
Yeah, yeah.
To do that. That is just worthwhile to support the kids who are getting scholarships and stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that's very.
That is also when we recognize our graduates of distinction,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I think that I've been to those, both of those, and it's really a point of pride to see a number of people from our area who can use money for their education and to see the variety of kids and the variety of interests, potential vocations they're heading for that receive these awards. And you kind of get a little cross-section. Goodness, this one's going here. Here's something particular, entirely different over there. And, here's something going to that prestigious school or this school or that specialized school for something else. It's a real good place to kind of take a measure of the diversity of interests of our graduates. And I've been very happy to be part of that. You said something about the graduates of distinction.
Remember, the graduates
Yeah.
of distinction, we have moved the honor, instead of having a separate night, we honor our graduates of distinction at the senior awards night.
Oh, right.
We did that
Our
last
goal with that also is to have the applications out there, so maybe we get some nominees that
Yeah.
night as well, and because we're looking to honor folks who have graduated prior to 10 years ago, whatever year it is, who have contributed to the community in which they live and work, or even more specifically to North Mason if they are still here, who set an example for our students going forward of what a strong community-focused individual can do. And so that's what we honor.
I really appreciate having the event, the athletic/event calendar. It gives you an idea of how used all of our buildings and facilities are every day. I didn't realize it myself. This is amazing, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had something to say on the graduates of distinction. I know it's a little early, but I'm on Facebook and I'm friends with Aiden Wheelander, and he was on our board last year, and he just graduated the Little Fire Academy, and it was so exciting to see that vision of him. Because I remember when his mom was going to have him. And in fact, with my daughter Sarah, we were kind of in a competition as to who would have which kid first. So it was kind of neat to see him all grown up and now pursuing a firefighting career. And it was just really exciting to kind of see that full circle.
That's cool.
It was, yeah. Anyway, he's very happy and see his mom and everyone just really encouraging him. And it's too soon to be a graduated distinction, but to me, he already is.
That's neat.
Well, all right, yeah, I really think this is an important thing because history is something that escapes through our fingers, and we don't always recognize those whom we have produced that have made a difference to our present, and they also provide a hope for the future in that by, they've influenced not only the people that they were with in their cohort, but by holding them up as a model, I think they help give our kids a sense of what's possible starting here. And I think that an organization like ours, and this is fairly new, that honors its past, really helps set a clear way for a varied future. And I really have been very pleased with the people we've had that we've honored in that way. They represent quite a different of professions. I remember one fellow that's way out some other part of the country, and then we had Peggy Van Busker for her athletic prowess, and then we honored Ray Moyle, who has certainly been a friend of us as we have gone into our construction plans. So if we've covered those items, anything we need to say about upcoming North Mason Life columnists? We kind of covered that.
You're next.
Oh, yeah. My, it seems just like yesterday. Well, okay, that's fine. Anybody have a suggestion?
Well, I was just going to mention on July, I really would like to see maybe the kids start taking that one on, because last year we actually had Aiden talking about the activity they had at the high school with, what was it called, The Last Dance, or and so I think that would be really great to have like a Relay for Life and take that one on. It's good for them.
That's a great idea.
And they can promote themselves, and since we're not doing anything ourselves, I'd like to see them.
Okay, yeah, we'll see if we can get that set up. Thank
Did we
you.
bring that up a while back and one of the student here were going to do it? Or was that,
That was one in the
That
spring.
was something else.
was that? I thought
Yeah.
that was that. Okay. But it, yeah.
We
Yeah,
can
we-
look back if we need
I-
to and make
I thought it-
sure.
Yeah,
We
we can
did
check-
have
we can check the
something we were going
minutes.
to talk about that for
That they got,
one of
I
our
mean, not
board-
just, I know we talked about them doing the,
We can check the minutes,
the.
see
at
if they
the
want
end
to.
Of the meeting.
Yeah.
Or.
Yeah, Grace is going, wait a minute.
I'd be real happy to move that up a
Just
month.
making more work for you, don't worry about it.
That's
Yeah.
okay, I can take it.
All right. Good. No, okay, then I'm dreaming over here and everything is good.
All right.
I did have one
I
suggestion.
do want to note, we will have that, we expect to have that parking lot available that night, so that will be helpful.
That'd be very cool.
You mentioned earlier that the kids were working on something to keep marijuana safe from other people getting into it. Dan actually passed a bill through the House and the Senate that was a marijuana lockbox bill.
Yeah, that was it.
So
Yeah.
I was wondering if maybe
Yeah.
that would be a good topic, since Dan did graduate here, and now the students here were working on it. Maybe that's something.
And seeing as
Oh,
the-
that would be something you could write
That's
about,
right.
John.
Seeing the prominence of the industry.
Just because you
in our
seem to be on that, and I'm like,
community.
well, that might
Yeah,
be
sure.
something interesting to talk about.
Be
Yeah, 'cause-
careful about the use of on, but yeah, I think that'd be a good thing. Our kids have been concerned with it, and Dan did a great job for us, and he was one of the people that advised the kids on that. He and Drew together did a great service for it, so maybe that's what I'll,
And just thinking out loud, because I'm a busybody, I
Well-
was at a bill signing today for a correctional facility bill that he passed, but this one has not been signed by the governor, and you can invite people. So it'd be really great if a couple of our students could go there when the bill is signed into law.
I think that would
that'd
be
exciting.
super.
I don't know how to
That'd be
work
cool.
that, but I'll try
Well,
and.
maybe if Dan lets
Yeah.
us know, we could
I
do
know.
that.
I'd love to add stuff to his plate.
There you go.
Yeah, well, I think that would be great. And it's great when our legislators have been so friendly and welcoming to students. Most of us got the email from Drew today, that showed that, and I know that your husband has been equally
Yeah, he
eager.
had Dan had about 9 students, I think, this year from Mason County.
He loves the pages.
My daughter was one,
Yes.
so it was cool. Yeah. All right.
Okay, I guess we're prepared then to move on to item 4, monitoring reports, assurance of organizational performance and policy. So we have below the ER 11 district calendar, ER the monitoring report and response. So we're open at this point to discuss these and then to take action on our approval, or not.
So I would like to move that we find the superintendent's performance on the ER 11 district calendar to be satisfactory.
Okay, discussion. It
I-
seems to have worked well.
I know that historically, it's always been NMEA that pretty much guided what the calendar would be, but I believe that you also include the classified staff as well.
We also include, PSC, and our goal, as you know, for the last 3 years has been to have a 2-year calendar, and we had the second year for your approval and some changes for next year as well in this agenda. But both bargaining units have been involved in making sure that the calendars as proposed make sense, both for the kids that they serve and for their professional development and their work as well. So yes.
I appreciate the fact that we did have to have some emergency closings this year, and the weather was unpredictable. And
Yes.
I think we did the best job that we could, that you could, in providing for those closings and keeping everybody safe. So I appreciate that.
Was certainly an interesting year for them.
Any other comments on the district calendar? Okay, since the motion has been moved, all in favor of accepting the calendar, finding the superintendent in compliance with ER 11, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, now, the discussion of item 5, we have decided to take off the agenda and consider next time. So that brings us, goodness, to adjournment. Time flies. We have announcements and comments from the public. And I've got Herb and, do you guys want to comment? Or anybody else?
I sat in the meeting with Mark Swafford for the Pee-wees and the Little League, and I think a lot of good came out of it. And I think everybody's in agreement that there'll be plenty of spots for youth organizations. He asked us to help him work on, fees for some of the fields. So it's affordable to youth organizations, so don't price the youth organizations out of it. But it was a good meeting, and I think a committee like this is going to be a lot good to come out of it. With discussion of softball field, and play fields and lights, so I think it's a good thing. The other comment I got, I don't know who's responsible for it, but I like seeing the old photos back up out here in the hallway. Some of us got 3 generations working at this school now. Been to the 3rd generation crew, and I know Laura's got 3 generations coming over here, so it's good to see them little pictures.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
You're welcome.
Okay, if anybody else with a comment? Hey, come on, Don, you had something to say.
Any idea, I know that whatever we do with the fields, the sooner we get started on it, the better. Any idea when, because you're probably gonna have to have a special meeting to vote on that? instead of waiting on-
As soon as I get actual plans that include all of the input that we've received, we will have to call a special meeting, and of course, we have days in advance that we have to give that. So I am hoping that we do that by the first week of May so that we can get going. As we've talked about before, part of the benefit for doing this way, besides the savings, is that we are going to break the job into multiple jobs. That way, some of the pieces like building the building the concession stand / locker room, et cetera, is a smaller building project, so maybe we will have more local builders participate in the bid process on those things. But the field itself, like we did up here, because we are part of a consortium through KCDA for purchasing, we don't have to go through the bid process because KCDA already did. And so as soon as we have plans, we can go to KCDA and select their vendor that is the lowest bidder to come in and get our field started. And so that shortens that process, but we want to get it started as soon as possible, so we have turf for September. Yes.
Okay, that brings us to board self-assessment.
Not quite.
Not
Announcements and
quite,
comments,
no.
board and superintendent.
Board and superintendent comments.
I don't have any comments other than it's really nice, Art, that you guide John along.
Yeah, really.
Well, he helped me when I was stumbling too.
I know.
I have something that's kind of off the wall, I guess, it's in here, but I didn't realize until just recently, because we're going through an audit ourselves, that we pay, like the school pays for the audit. So if there's an audit that's not normal, like I'm going through one that's not normal, we actually pay for it. And if you don't budget for it, it's big. And for us, it was like $7,000, but for the school, I think it's like $27,000 for an audit. And it's something I would have never
And
known
it's
that.
required every year.
Yeah, but I mean, and you guys know, but I didn't ever thought about, are these things, that they get paid for? I would think, well, we pay taxes to the state and the state does the audit. Shouldn't that be paid for? Shouldn't that already be
Talk
paid
to
for?
your
But-
legislator about that.
Huh?
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that was, I'm really concerned about that, and what if something happened and we didn't have something like that in our budget? I mean, can we really talk about that to them? And they say no. They say no. It's just, it gets paid. And
That is right.
And if it's not paid, then you may go in the red, So these are things that are
Right,
coming
well-
to light. I didn't even know. I never thought about looking into something like that or whatever, but I thought it was something important that people understand, that these things we actually have to pay for it. So
Right, I have a
it's interesting.
counterpoint in a sense to that. I like that we pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like, because we're paying for it, not just because we're paying for it, but that the auditors are working for us fine,
Yeah.
not
And
for
they're
the school
always
district.
so helpful.
and
I
not
want to put
whatever.
that out there too. They don't just come, no matter if it's planned or not. They don't come and are mean about it. They're really, it's not just in their training, but actually in their personalities. I think the way that they hire them is that they come and they really help us out. They're calm with us and peaceful. And usually, most of the time you can get the same person to come back so they get to know you. And so it's a really interesting process that I've been learning, and it's something I would have never thought about before. And, an audit, whatever, it kind
Right.
of sounds
But
great,
again,
but-
think of how complex that budget is and how enormous it is. We really don't have that great of a grasp on it. That's why I feel like it's important to have them, because they do have that grasp
Oh, they
on
are.
it.
They are very
And
important.
they're working for us to make sure that everyone else is doing the right thing, and they're telling us when it's not.
Yeah.
so that
I
we
think they
can
would
then
still do
go
a
to the
really awesome
superintendent
job,
with whatever.
even if we didn't have to pay for it. Just saying.
But we pay less because we're doing such a great job, so.
Yeah, that's their job, to do a great job, and their personalities, they do a great job. So.
John?
Yes, yes. Well, we're right. This is board comments on, did anyone else have any comments that was on the board? I wanted to just observe, I've been working on a report, part of our superintendent evaluation all day, and I have trouble coming out of a dive. When I've been opening, and my eyes have been focused on one thing all day, it takes me a while to adjust, and I did not allow sufficient adjustment time. But we're not in this, it's not called a democracy for nothing, and I can lead with a little help from my friends, and so I really appreciate your patience and the help of my colleagues. And I'll just say in observing, in closing, that as the legislative season is closing down, it has been very interesting for me to be in this particular job, and also as the legislative rep. I've felt like an important official. Those of us who are all behind this table belong to the largest group of elected officials in the state. And I have been to Olympia several times, testified several times, and I feel connected with our government in a way that I had never felt connected before. And for those that are having difficulty holding faith with our system, we changed. My colleagues and I had some impact, and other organizations throughout the state, mayors and lawyers for various cities, in getting appropriate, I believe, modifications in the Public Records Act. And this is a long process. All sides are heard. There are people with strong feelings on this, but I would like to report, I think the system, with an asterisk, works. So we are now, if no one else has any comments, then we're now on to our board self-assessment, and it falls to me. As you know, we are governed by policy governance. Each session, we evaluate ourselves or the district on a set of particular policies. And you've seen that this evening and every time. And so at the end of the year, when it comes time to evaluate the superintendent, then we have information, not that we've just come up with, but that we're gathering together throughout the year. And so this allows the board to do our job, which is governing, and our superintendent, who is our only employee, to do hers, which is running the district. Her reports, of course, we've seen this evening and other times. So, general meeting behavior. The agenda was well planned, the real focus of the board. The board followed its agenda, did not allow it to get itself sidetracked. I think the chair made a couple of side comments for which he should be reprimanded, perhaps. But board members prepared for and contributed to the meeting. I think everybody was ready for our meeting. We proceeded without interruptions or distractions. Our deliberations and decision-making process were public. Participation was balanced, reasonably so, I would say. All participated, no one dominated. Members listened attentively, avoided side conversations. Work was conducted in an atmosphere of trust and openness. Meeting participants treated each other with respect and courtesy. I certainly think we're satisfactory on all of those criteria. And then the next part is, have we followed the laws by which we agreed to govern ourselves, the policy governance principles? Board actions are made at the policy level. That's certainly been the case in our deliberations this evening. Board reviews policy about each topic before discussing that issue. We've certainly done the groundwork for that. That is what made our discussions this evening possible. And we do additional policies. When we do them, the board starts with broad principles. That doesn't apply really for this evening. The board minimizes time spent on monitoring past performance. I think that's true. We routinely dedicate time to reviewing and improving our own process. And I have to say that I think Art really made a big contribution in improving my process this evening. The board clarifies priorities and values when considering potential outcomes. Beneficiaries and costs of outcomes. We certainly consider costs in our discussion this evening. Board follows an annual calendar. We certainly do in planning our work. The board chair helps the board efficiently to conduct its meeting with a little help from his friends. The board spends most of its time deliberating issues, defining and clarifying its vision, linking with its community as opposed to fixing things. And I think the report that we had this evening about the progress on the ball fields is a pretty good example of us, when we reach a bump in the road, reaching out to our community to get ourselves headed toward get ourselves moving more smoothly. The board supports the superintendent in any reasonable interpretation of its policies. And I think that's the case. I find us overall satisfactory. So what we're going to do at this point is we're going to resolve ourselves to an executive session for approximately 30 minutes for the purpose of discussing a personnel matter. Possible action may be taken as a result of this executive session. So, for the present, we are in an executive session, so I'll hammer my...
Remind folks of that part there.
Oh, yeah. And our next board meeting, by the way, will be held on May 18th at 6:30, the usual place. We're going to just have an executive session and...
At 8:22.
Yeah, at 8:22, and then we'll be regrouping when it's over in 30 minutes. And I will just declare, we have the possible action may be taken as a result of this executive session. And if you want to stay and hear about that, that's what you'll hear about in point F when we come back after adjournment. So, for the present, we're adjourned to executive session.